안녕하세요, 여러분. 저는 구엔이라고 하고요. 오늘은 한국 문화에 대해 발표해 보겠습니다. Hello, everyone. My name is Gwen, and today I'm going to be talking to you about Korean culture. So this is just going to be kind of a brief overview of Korean culture for those who may not be aware, for those who... I will also be talking about some things, though, that I think most people don't know about, that I sort of did my own research about. And then after we play like a brief game talking about that, I will be going into some of my experiences that some of the things I experienced during my study abroad in Daegu, South Korea this past year. Yeah, just so that you guys can kind of see some pictures from my study abroad and kind of get to know me better and get to know a little bit more about the person that's teaching you Korean. So hopefully that'll be cool. And for those of you considering studying abroad, specifically in South Korea, I think it'll be really beneficial to watch that. So without further ado, let's go. Okay, so the first we're gonna play a game called This or That. So all you have to do is tell me, pause the video or think about it, which picture you think relates to Korean culture. That's it. Okay, this or that? This, the one on the left. So the picture on the left-hand side, you can see former President Barack Obama doing a nice deep bow. That is the very formal version of greeting someone. It's showing sort of the deeper you bow, the more respectful it is. So he is doing that to a foreign leader to show his respect for him. And you can see that they're also shaking hands at the same time. This is not really common unless it's like in really formal like business settings. And then obviously the picture on the right would be like American style, 미국 style. So that one is the high five. You can still do this among friends and things like that, but I think the typical, at least what I experienced when I was there, still the typical greeting is just like a lower or a lighter bow, like not as deep, just like a little head nod and things like that, even to friends. So yeah, you just say 안녕하세요, 안녕하세요 is hello. Right? This or that. So when writing people's names is what I'm going to ask you about. Do you use red pen? Do you use black pen? I feel like this one's kind of one of those, not self-explanatory, but people would automatically think, oh, of course you'd use black pen, right? And that is correct. So obviously this is a superstition that dates back a long time. So there are still some people that feel really strongly about when you write their name in red ink. But for the most part, it's kind of an old superstition, so you can still do it and kind of get away with it in a sense. But let me tell you the history behind it. So back in the old days, when they still did the census on paper, each household would get like a piece of paper saying, okay, how many people live in this household, things like that. I think we still kind of do it that way. But so if someone was deceased, then they would write their names in red ink to symbolize that they have passed on and they're no longer with us, whatever. But so over the years, this sort of got turned into, well, if you dishonor our family, or if you do something that is disrespectful to me, you're dead to me, and I will write your name in red ink. So it's kind of like it was used to like sort of as a threat, or like say like, oh, you're dead to me, or I wish you were dead kind of message if you write someone's name in red ink, even though they are still alive. So my little, I guess, personal story with this is I had a friend about 3 years ago. He studied abroad at my university in America, in Michigan, and his name was Seungmin. And so I got him a Christmas present, and on the bottom of the present, I wrote Seungmin in red pen. And when I gave him the present, he was like, you want me to die? And I was like, what? I was so confused. But obviously he was just joking, but I was completely unaware that this was a superstition in Korea, but now I know. So now you know as well. So hopefully you will use this information for good and not evil. Going on to the next one. Okay, this or that. What do you think is the Koreans' main mode of transportation? It is the subway, or public transportation system, I should say. So they use subways, buses, things like that, way more than personal cars. A lot of my friends, a lot of their parents actually didn't even own a car because it's just so, the public transportation system is just so reliable that you really don't have a reason to own a personal car. Like, why would you spend the money if you know that you can get to work on time, if you take the subway, if you can do everything because you know that when the subway says it's going to be there, it will be there. And if it's late, then, they will let you know because there's usually like a sign, and it's all electronic and it'll update with the exact minute that like the bus is supposed to be arriving and things like that. So yeah. Okay, this or that. So when we're eating rice, do we put our chopsticks right across the bowl or do we stick them straight up and down out of the bowl? Hopefully you guys said stick them, like lay them flat on top of the bowl. This is something maybe if some of the Asian viewers will probably know already, but I did not know this at all. But when I went to Korea, I was eating, and I remember I was eating with friends, and I stuck my chopsticks like straight up and down out of the rice bowl, and they were like, don't do that, don't do that. And they like took them out and put them flat for me, and I was just like, because I remember doing that all the time, like if we go out to Chinese restaurants or things like that, at home with my family. And so I asked them why, like what's the reason for that? And actually when people die, when people pass away, putting an offering, like a food offering of usually rice, with the chopsticks set straight up and down, sticking out of the bowl, is actually the way that they make that offering to the deceased. So, and that is always food that they do not eat after as well. So, when I did that, if you're eating the food and you do that, it's sort of like teasing the dead in a sense, because you're making that gesture like you're offering the food down to them. Just think about the direction of the chopsticks are going. You're offering food past the grave, and then you are eating that food. So it's almost like bad karma, I think they think of it. So yeah, always put your chopsticks right on the side just to be safe. Okay, this or that. Do you tip in Korea? No, you do not. I was very shocked to find this out, coming from capitalist America, the American viewpoint, that you actually do not tip in Korea. So I was at a restaurant, and it literally took me like a couple weeks to like get used to not tipping, because I'm always just like, okay, 15 or 20%, whatever. So I was at a restaurant and I ate the ramen, and then I put money on the table, and I walked out of the restaurant, and this woman, like the restaurant owner, literally followed me outside with my money. And I was like, that was before I really knew Korean at all, and I was just like, oh, like what's going on? And I remember her just handing me my money and saying like, no, we can't accept it, it's rude. And I was like, it's rude? I never thought about tipping as rude. And so I asked my Korean friend later, and they said that actually Koreans have the mentality that when you pay for the food, you're also paying for the service as well. Like it's just included in your bill already. But it's not any sort of extra like gratuity. It's just like when you pay for the meal, then they just think, okay, the service is just a given. And so when you give them extra money, it's sort of like you're paying for something you didn't order, if that makes sense. So they kind of see it as like you're treating them like your servant in a way, which is obviously not okay. But I had just never thought of it like that, that it could be taken in a different light at all. So yeah, just definitely keep that in mind if you plan to go to Korea as well, which I hope you do. That not tipping is actually more than okay. It's recommended, it's preferred. People will literally chase you down with your money outside. So yeah, don't tip. Okay, this or that. You guys are probably getting tired of me saying that, right? This or that. Sea of Japan or East Sea? What is that area? What is that body of water called in Korea? All right, so that is actually called the East Sea. So any maps, anything that, any like geographical things that you can see in Korea will actually have that body of water called the East Sea. That's because there's a whole lot of, for those of you who know about, the World War II, all that stuff, Japan's imperialism over Korea, things like that. There's a lot of tension still, I think, between the two countries. Not necessarily their people, but just politically, there's a lot of things that have been left sort of unresolved. So I think this is just one of those things. Koreans say it's called the East Sea, and then Japan, of course, thinks, no, that's the Sea of Japan. So yeah, just be mindful of that. In Japan, obviously, the one on the left will be what you see on maps and things like that. I think the US does a pretty good job of putting both now, so you can see a wide variety of that, but they used to just go with the Japanese mindset as well and put everything as just Sea of Japan. Okay, I believe this is the last one. So left or right, this or that, for the Korean president's house. Hopefully everyone gets this right, but obviously the one on the left is the White House where President Trump currently lives. And then on the right side is called the, drumroll please, Blue House. I'm not kidding. So that is where current President Moon Jae-in lives in South Korea, and it is called the Blue House. Okay, so what are the basic rules to live by when studying abroad? This is the fun part. You can see pictures. I'm excited. Okay, so obviously you can see when I was there, I had a lot of like patriotism and stuff like that. But I'm also very passionate about spreading Korean culture and Korean language and things like that. So just be mindful, like wherever you go, it's good to have your own culture and be strong in that, but it's also really good to sort of embrace your host culture as well, and not be sort of stuck in some mindset. You have to be really open-minded to appreciate the culture of the place you're in. So, rule number 1, you will become a representative of your country, so amp up the patriotism. I know I probably make myself look insane in these pictures, but it's fine. I'm cool with it. But yeah, so when I was there, I was one of 2 Americans at the whole university, let alone in our area. There was like there were not a whole lot of foreigners. It was pretty much one dormitory, and we kind of stuck to ourselves. They sort of had us in like separate buildings and things like that than the other Korean students. So it's just like you have to remember that when you're there will be times where you interact with Koreans where you will be the only person from your country they will ever meet. Think about that for a second. You will be their only like personal connection to someone from your country. Whether you're from America or from Ukraine or Europe or wherever, you need to represent your country, your continent, your people well. And so that's what I try to do. So one of the situations, if you look at the picture on the left, there was an international food festival that I did with my best friend Danny from the Bahamas, and you can see like our flags behind, and I'm wearing my my flag basically. And yeah, we made food from both of our countries to serve at the university festival. So that was just one way that you can sort of represent America while not forcing just being so stubborn and stuck in your ways. That's one of those ways you can just spread positivity and things like that as well. And on the right hand side, we were actually an international club called Feel Korea Focus, which I was a part of for the whole year I was there. We were invited to go to a children's festival at a local elementary school, and I performed a medley of, that's me like sitting in the chair. I know it's from the back. I chose weird pictures, but I decided to make sort of like a mashup of Western just pop songs, and the kids were just listening and like loving it, and so that was really fun too. So it doesn't have to necessarily be you going up to people and saying and only speaking English and talking about American culture or your country's culture all the time. It's just you have to spread it in a way that's fun and acceptable and easily consumable for that host culture as well. All right, rule number 2. Sure, showing your national pride is nothing to be ashamed of, but you should also try to embrace the culture of your host country. So me, as you can tell by the pictures, and as you can probably tell by the way I light up when I talk about Korean language and culture, is I definitely fell in love with Korean culture, the people, the language, the scenery, everything. But it won't necessarily be the same case, I understand, for everyone. So you at least have to show effort and show that you're trying and caring. And even if you don't learn the entire Korean language, if you go up to anybody and just say, 안녕하세요, just hello. If you even know just hello, people will open up to you in ways that you would have no idea before. Because there's some weird door that unlocks when people see that you're putting in effort to speak to them in their own language. There's a really good quote I like by Nelson Mandela that says, if you speak to a man in a language other than its own, it goes to his head, but if you speak to a man in his own language, it goes to his heart. And I think that really rings true about Korean people as well. So on the left-hand side, that's me. I went to the museum underneath the statue of King Sejong in Seoul. And then the middle picture, I went to Dokdo Island, which is a territory that's still being disputed between Korea and Japan about whose land it is. And then the third picture was trying on the traditional king's robe. So actually it was funny, on that day I fake married one of my best friends that was in the language program with me, so that was a fun day. Alright, on the left you can see the King Sejong statue that I was talking about earlier. That is located in Seoul, and right underneath the statue you can actually go down underneath and there is a museum dedicated to Hangul, the Korean alphabet, and the whole language and things like that, because King Sejong, was the one who created the linguist competition to make an easier alphabet for Korean people to learn. So yeah, he's definitely someone Korean people love and respect a lot. So this middle picture was at Gwanghwamun. I think it's called Gwanghwamun, but it's a palace that's literally right across from the King Sejong Daewang statue. And then the third picture, of course, embracing culture means trying the food as well, and food appreciation, which I definitely did. So that is me eating 닭갈비, which I think is like spicy chicken. So, and it has cheese in it. It's really, really good. Try it. Okay, rule number 3. You will have the amazing opportunity to meet people from all over the world, so why not make friendships you'll never forget? On the left left-hand side, those were all people from my language program. They were all Vietnamese. Oh my gosh, they're crazy, crazy, crazy. In the middle, that was taken on my birthday. I spent my 21st birthday in South Korea, and the girl on the top is from Kazakhstan, in the middle is from Iran, and then on the bottom is from Panama. And then on the right hand side, that was my other like best guy friend when I was there. He is from Mongolia. So there's just a wide variety of people that you can meet when you go anywhere, but specifically South Korea, I think is sort of a culture hub, especially when you're studying abroad, going to university, things like that. Even though they're still a very homogenous country, still very Korean in essence, there are a lot of international people you can run into as well. Yeah. Okay, here's just more international friends. One of the cool things I did want to say though about that was I think that the most beautiful thing that I learned during my entire experience was not the culture, not the language. It was actually making friends with people from countries that my country is not necessarily friends with. And just let that sink in for a second. I remember the girl on the previous slide from Iran, the first day we met each other, we both were like, like, you're from Iran? And she was like, she's from America? Oh my gosh, like, what do I do? I'm like scared. So we both had this moment of like stereotyping or we had these prejudices like put up because we heard the country name, and then later we actually got to know each other and became really good friends. So that just shows you too, and showed me that how important it is to make sure we're not taking our stereotypes, our closed-minded ideas into our host country, because we really, really need to be open-minded in order to completely grasp the full experience of being away. Rule number 4, since you're already halfway across the world, you might as well leave your footprint everywhere, right? Travel, travel, travel. Even though you're already in a different country, it's really important that you see that country other than just outside of the university walls, right? So on the left-hand side, that was when I went to Dokdo Island because I won a language like speech contest with my as part of a team with my friends. In the middle, I went to Jeju Island as part of a group of native English speakers that went to help a high school group that went for a field trip. And then on the right-hand side, that was actually eWorld, and that is located in Daegu. So it was so beautiful. If you have the chance to go, please, please, please go. It was amazing. Yes, eWorld. It's like an amusement park, but at night they have all these lights on, and there's just tons of, because you know Koreans love taking pictures, like more than anything. So they have tons of areas where you can have photo ops, and it seems just like a magical wonderland, so definitely go. The middle picture was also from eWorld, just for another snapshot of the kind of photo ops you can get there. On the left-hand side, there's all these, if you travel to Seoul, the capital, then there's all sorts of like art pieces that you can see outside, especially by Gwanghwamun, which is the palace that I was talking about earlier. And then on the far right, that was for my birthday. That was located a little bit off our campus, and it was just this nature trail that we randomly found, and we were like, shoot, let's have a picnic here. So it's just, that's one thing I definitely encourage if you study abroad is traveling, because you never know what things are lurking right in your backyard, basically, of the place you're staying, and you would have never found it if you didn't adventure outside the front door, right? So yes, please travel. The next one is rule 5. So it sounds so cliche, and I know everybody says this, but in order to make the absolute most out of your experience, you have to step out of your comfort zone. That's the basics. Like, I'm one of the people that doesn't want to. Like, I want to live in my comfort zone. But I know that if I do that, it would have limited me so much at this point in my life too, especially when studying abroad. I know I know that in my dormitory, there were people that they would go out drinking every night. They weren't studying the language or, focusing their attention on anything else. And I think that really hurt them, or they kind of regretted not letting go a little bit more. So yeah, I just recommend stepping out of your comfort zone for sure. The picture on the left is another children's festival that international students were invited to, and the picture in the middle is from the Jeju Islands trip, where I went with all these high schoolers that spoke pretty good English, but they were kind of giving up towards the end of the trip and just speaking to me in Korean because A, they knew I knew it, and B, they were on a trip. Who wants to study when you're on a vacation, right? And then the third picture there is I'm with my friend, and we actually did a festival type thing. It was called Colorful Daegu, which was the city name. So that was the 2019 Colorful Daegu Festival. And if you look in the next slide, you'll see why we're wearing crazy pants. Okay, if you look at the big picture on this left-hand side, we are literally hanging 20 feet in the air. 20 feet, it's 50 feet probably, I don't know, math numbers, I don't know, but it was really crazy. And actually I am the person on the top right of the U, the letter U. So we literally spelled out Daegu with our bodies, and they just lifted us in the air, and all of us were terrified, but it was so fun. And that's another thing I'd encourage is as long as you're not doing something dangerous to your health or well-being, always try to say yes, because that's the absolute best way that you can make sure you're just not avoiding opportunities, or you're making sure you're taking advantage of those experiences as much as you can, because you're only going to be there for a short while. So yeah, that was definitely one of those situations I told my mom about after I was dangling in the air. And I remember her just being like, what the heck? Yeah, so the top right picture is when I went to a wedding. I know you're probably thinking, Gwen, if you were only there for 1 year, how the heck did you get close to someone enough to get invited to their wedding? And the answer is, I kind of didn't. So the groomsmen and the bride, I actually had never met them before, and the groom knew my friend and had asked him, hey, do you want to sing at my wedding? And my friend had said, sure, but there's another girl that I want to sing with. Can she sing for your wedding? And he said, yeah, sure, no problem, and she can bring her friends. So it's just because you say yes to things, it will open the door to so many other things in the future. And so that's why I kind of make a joke oh, I crashed a wedding in Korea because I didn't know the groom or the bride, but I got to sing an Ed Sheeran song, the song Perfect. I got to sing that at their wedding. So it was really, really a beautiful experience for me as well, and I will never forget that day. And then on the bottom right is my classmates from the language program. So all of them were Vietnamese except 2 were from Mongolia. So yeah, that was just such a fun group. They're also the people that you saw in the picture before where we were all drinking, going crazy, which I recommend in moderation. That's the word I was looking for. Don't just go crazy just because you're abroad, right? You have to make sure you focus on studies, you focus on work, whatever you're there for, and then partying comes later. All right, rule number 6. I think this is the last rule. So pick something and get good at it. And what I mean by this is it doesn't have to be Korean language. That's what mine was. But it could be, you want to learn how to skateboard really well. You want to learn how to dance really well. Just pick something and then make it your goal that before you go back home, you want to get good at that. And yeah, that's what I would really recommend, because then you can at least feel like you've changed in some way and grown and gotten better at something, and then you can feel more confident and proud of yourself after the fact. So I know that I, for example, chose Korean language, and I was like, okay, I just set it in my mind. I was like, I came here because I really, really wanted to learn or improve my skills in the Korean language. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to see how far it takes me. I'm going to study hard and see what happens. And I did. And I ended up, like I said previously, getting to go on a trip to Dokdo Island, which most Koreans have never even been to, just because I won a foreigner speaking contest in Korean. So think about, if I had not taken it as seriously at the beginning, would I have been as open to those opportunities? Definitely not, right? And then another thing, if you look at the video links on the left-hand side, I don't think they'll work, obviously, when I just post this as a video, when I convert it, but I will make sure that you guys also have access to those video clips so that you can watch them if you'd like. But I also was part of a foreigner team that helped review foods. So they basically had us trying different Korean foods, traditional foods, weird foods, and then having us react to them in Korean. So that was super, super fun. And you can see I got to do it with my best friend Danny, who's from the Bahamas again. And yeah, it was just an awesome time. And you can see that me and Danny are most of the thumbnail pictures. So I encourage you to check those out because they're pretty funny. Oh, I don't want to play them here. Oh my gosh, sorry about that. All the videos started playing at once and I was just like, what is happening? Okay, so yeah, if you just look at this slide for a second, almost all of the people in this slide could not speak English. So what does that mean? That means that I knew that I had motivation now in my friendships, in my daily interactions, to learn this language. I know that it's going to be harder for people at home that are, you know, whatever country you may be from. If you're from America, if you're just my friend watching this video, supporting me, I guess, then, you know, it's going to be a little bit harder to have that motivation because you're not going to be able to use it on a daily basis. But I really encourage you, it's easy. It's easier than you think to learn it. And once you actually go and put yourself in an atmosphere where you're around Korean people, or you're at least able to use the language in practice, it will just, if you have the foundation, it will just completely skyrocket your ability to speak. The boy on the bottom left-hand corner was the kid named Dongwon that I actually tutored like twice a week at his house, and he was just so cute. Oh my goodness. But that's another example of an opportunity that may be available for you. If you're a native English speaker, you could be an English tutor because Koreans love language learning. So yeah, just another thing to keep your eye out for. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions, please just comment down below or send me an email asking me, you know, Gwen, this was a little unclear, or Gwen, maybe next time you could do this topic, things like that. I would love to hear from you. So yeah. That is it, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.